Sheehan, what's up, man? How are you?
Hoffman, what's going on?
I am well. I have one of those shows. You've had many of them over the years where you have the plan and you're ready to go. I was ready to go deep on the Spencer Dinwiddie, Kyle Kuzma drama, and then our boy Teddy Scheifler says, actually, Jeff Bezos is out on the Commander. So we blew up the rundown. Happy to talk about it with you. What was your reaction when you saw the news from Teddy earlier today?
That nobody likes Dinwiddie. Other than that, which, by the way, I think is true, it seems like he rubs everybody the wrong way. It's funny because Scheifler was on the show Friday with me, and on my podcast Friday. That's right, because the news came out late Friday. And I said, well, give me your guess. And he said, I'm going to take a wild swing at this thing. I think Bezos is going to get the team. So that's 5 days ago. And, Craig, that is really where we are on this thing. It's like, I don't know if anybody really knows anything. My belief, based on the people that I have been talking to for 3 months now, is that Josh Harris is going to get the team. He's going to pay a little bit less than $6 billion for it, and that, it's going to happen. I keep saying sooner rather than later, and I've been saying that for a month now, so it's not quite as soon. But now I think it's truly, going to happen very soon, and we'll see. But I don't think anybody other than Dan, Tanya, Bank of America, and Harris really know. And I think sometimes it changes because of the seller. I don't think it's the easiest seller of all time.
Yeah, no, I talked about that with Teddy a little bit, that it seems like even basic, blocking and tackling, if you will, to use that analogy, is difficult with him because he's just a difficult person. Why do you think, though, and I realize this is reckless speculation, but hey, we're sports talk radio hosts, so let's go. Why do you think it is that Bezos ultimately pulls out? Because if he wanted the team, it's his. He could pay a number that Dan can't say no to and would be absolutely crazy to say no to, no matter how much personal hatred is there. If he wanted the team, he'd have it. He doesn't, apparently. Why do you think that is?
I mean, I don't even know if describing it as him pulling out is even accurate. I mean, was he ever actually in, other than maybe dipping a toe by hiring Allen and Company to maybe look at the deal? I mean, I don't know why, but maybe it's because Seattle is just a more attractive buy for him for lots of reasons. Number one, they have a stadium. Number two, they have a fan base. And number three, it's much more home for him than D.C. is. I mean, you would have never said this 10, 15 years ago, that Seattle or Denver are more attractive franchises than Washington, but they are in many ways. I mean, the upside here, because of the market, the demographics of the market, the federal government, and the number of corporate sponsorships with people who, sell to the federal government, all of that, the upside's huge, but you've got to pay for a new stadium more likely than not, and you have to spend significant customer acquisition dollars to reacquire old fans and to acquire new fans. Two things that you don't have to do in Denver or Seattle. So maybe it's as easy as he's waiting for Seattle because it's more attractive.
That makes a lot of sense. And you also, as you referenced, you don't have to spend the money on the stadium. So you're going to buy a less expensive franchise and then have way, way less to spend on the next big project in terms of a chunk of change that you'll need to do on something, which is the stadium, of course, practice facility as well. From the people you've talked to, what do you make of Harris's ability to unlock the RFK site? Because that was one of the big pulls of Bezos, was he's so politically connected, he knows how to lobby, and he's got all the cash in the world, so he could do things that others can't at that RFK site that might make it more feasible. Do you have faith that Harris can also do what needs to be done to get the team back to RFK if that's ultimately what they want to do?
I mean, the answer is I don't know, but this is what I would guess. I would guess based on the fact that he had to raise a lot of the capital, that he's probably got, 5 to 15 limited partners in his deal. I mean, it's not just him, Rails, and Magic. They had to go out and raise a lot more money from limited partners, investors, and, just to buy the team. So if that's the case, he's not in position like Bezos is to just pluck down, to pay for the stadium without any jurisdictional help. Bezos wouldn't need DC's help other than, the Department of Interior to actually sell or lease the land, and for the EC Council to clear the way from a zoning perspective. And one thing that I would just say and caution people on is that the RFK site, which so many of us have incredible memories of, that neighborhood is completely different than it once was. It's a more gentrified neighborhood. There is more affluence, certainly close to that RFK site. And it's possible that, the people that live there don't want a stadium there. Not that the people that lived there years ago wanted the stadium there, but now they may actually be able to fight it financially, and perhaps have more influence. So that's always been a concern with that site. But clearly, Bezos would have an advantage in building a stadium anywhere he wanted to build a stadium because he doesn't need help.
Right. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Kevin Sheehan Show podcast as well with us here on the Team 980. So ultimately, what kind of timeline do you think we're looking at? Does this thing get run right up to the May meetings? Do we now with Bezos out of the way, theoretically, do we get an announcement? Like, are we finally doing the hey, he sold the team show later this week? Like, how long do you think this will take now that seemingly every barrier or other entry or other exit off the highway that doesn't lead to Josh Harris is seemingly not an option for Dan?
Yeah, I think the way it's been explained to me is like there is, an announcement. Okay, Josh Harris has, he's won the bidding for the Washington Commanders, and now you have the process of all of the legalese, all of the documents that need to be drawn up, more due diligence, the league vote, which could happen certainly by the end of May at the next league meetings, but that there's probably 30 to 60 days after the announcement before there's a closing in which all of the documents, just like if you were to buy any business, you sign the final documents and the money gets transferred via wire. And it's official. I think there were 60 days, maybe it was June to August for the Penner Walton group last year. So there's less vetting here on Harris. Obviously, he's already a small stakeholder in the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's been vetted already by the league. And so that process, I would think, would be quicker, but I don't know, 30 to 60 days is what I've been told from the time that, there's some sort of press release or press announcement that, the Josh Harris, if that's indeed the way it goes, that the Josh Harris group has, won the bidding and will be the next owner.
So that brings me to the final question, because Teddy, when he was on with us earlier, also on Twitter, was quick to stress there is still a fear amongst a lot of people around this sale that Bezos will reverse course, that there will be a change of heart, or that even Dan might go to Jeff and be like, hey, man, this is actually the deadline. There is, I'm about to sell this to Josh Harris. Do you want it? The price would be X. And Bezos goes, yeah, sure, and writes a check. What % do you give that?
I don't know. Teddy Scheifler last week on the show, I thought gave me something that I hadn't heard before. Maybe he had mentioned it before, or it had been reported before, is that Dan and Bezos actually met at the end of last year, which I thought was interesting. So, I guess it's always possible. Dan's going to try to get the biggest number, and remember the whole, period of time in which he wasn't going to sell to Bezos. He was excluded from the process of bidding. But maybe that's before Dan found out that the team wasn't worth $6 to $7 billion to anybody else, and maybe that's why Bezos has been, allowed back in. And maybe we just hit on one of the reasons, Craig, why it's not as attractive to Bezos anymore. Is there's been this up and down. If that's actually true with Snyder, and that he's only there because he's the highest bidder. But then again, maybe this is the team he wants. I don't know. I have no idea how to answer that question. I guess anything's possible, and only he and, Dan and Tanya and the people, at Bank of America probably really know. But, if the reporting today is right, it certainly sounds like it's Harris and that's it. The Apostolopoulos thing, remember Scheifler had last week, or maybe it was Front Office Sports, I forget, I'm getting confused with who's reported what, but that Apostolopoulos hadn't really arranged or put together the financing that Bank of America had been looking for. So that would leave Harris.
Right. Front Office Sports and AJ did have that. And AJ has also confirmed what Teddy reported earlier today as well. So, yeah, it seems like all roads, as they have for a long time, are pointing to Josh Harris. It'd be nice if this thing could actually get done and we could all move on with our lives. That would be cool. Instead, though, Kevin's going to probably talk about this on his podcast, and he's certainly going to talk about it tomorrow between 10 and 1 on this here radio station. Sheehan, appreciate you joining us. Always love talking to you. We'll do it again soon.
We'll be talking some Dinwiddie and Kuz tomorrow.
Yes.
Also. That was great. All right, thanks, Greg.
I'm jealous. I want to do that so bad. All right, see ya. That's Kevin Sheehan, everybody, with us on the Team 980.
This is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.